Okay, so Vaseem Khan, welcome to the Conversation Coffee Break.
Thank you for having me on, Nadine.
You are welcome. Right, my first question to you is, can you tell the listeners about your book, Quantum of Menace?
All right, so we are talking about the first in a mystery series featuring Q from the James Bond franchise. And in this book, Q is booted out of MI6. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's 50 years old. He's got no family. And then a letter arrives, a cryptic letter from his childhood friend, who is a quantum computer scientist who has recently died. And so Q is drawn back to his original birthplace, his hometown of Wixton-on-Water, which was a very small town, a couple of hours outside of London. And he's gone back because he wants to reinvestigate his friend's death, which the police have put to bed as misadventure. And so Q doesn't quite believe that. And so he goes about trying to figure out exactly what's happened to this chap.
Right, Vaz, so I normally ask, the next question is normally what came to you first, the character, a specific scene, the overall premise, or something completely different. But this is a book in the James Bond franchise. So how did it work?
Are you implying that I did not create these characters? I mean,
absolutely.
How dare you? How dare you? You know, I was the secret person behind Ian Fleming. I gave him all
these years.
Yeah, that's right. Look, yes, the Ian Fleming estate, his family approached me through their publishing arm, and they had the idea of a series featuring Q, not spy novels. These books would be traditional mysteries where Q would use his intellect to try and solve things rather than rocket launchers. And so, but they wanted ideas. And so I gave them a bunch of ideas, and Quantum of Menace is the one that we settled on. So essentially the main thrust of these books is that Q is not in MI6 anymore. He's going to be out back in this small hometown and trying to solve various mysteries. So we call it clever, cozy crime. And yes, you know, we've recently been talking about this, but it's pitched somewhere between Mick Herron's Slow Horses and Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club for the crowd who like those kind of books.
Okay, so I put a request out for listener questions. So this one, it ties in quite well. So who was it that was asking? David Bishop, who was asking on Instagram. He said, how daunting was it stepping into Fleming's shoes, and were you tempted to set Quantum of Menace in the late 50s and 60s in line with the original 007 novels?
It was really daunting because he apparently had very, very small feet, so it would have been very, very uncomfortable if he wore his actual shoes. No, to be fair, he wrote the Bond novels in his Jamaican villa called Goldeneye, and he would write them barefoot, so it wouldn't be that difficult because he had no shoes for me to step into. Look, it wasn't daunting at all. It was a real privilege. It was a real honor. I had an enormous amount of fun writing this book. Q doesn't appear in the original Bond novels very much at all. And so I had license to basically recreate him from scratch. My Q's 50 years old. He's neither Desmond Llewellyn from the films or Ben Whishaw. He's somewhere in between. He's a very serious man who takes his science and his mission, which is basically to arm and help the 00s, the field agents such as 007, to protect a way of life that we believe in democratic nations. So for all of that was very easy to slip into.
Okay. So which character surprised you the most whilst writing?
Well, the character I love most out of this book, I guess, is Q's dad. So his dad is Mortimer Boothroyd. So Q's official name in the books is Major Boothroyd, but of course we just refer to him as Q throughout the films and throughout my book, in fact. But he comes back to Wixton-on-Water, this small hometown he's left 3 decades earlier, and he's left under bad graces. He's not spoken to his father in 30 years, which we discover why. The reason we discover in the book. And this guy is in his late 70s. He's a crusty, retired Roman historian, a professor at Oxford University. And he and Q, when they get together, sparks fly. So I had a lot of fun with him because I love Roman history. And Mort is just, I think he's a character that a lot of people will enjoy.
Did you have to create like a backstory for him, for Q? You said he doesn't appear that much, if at all, in the novels.
Yeah. He only appears in the sense that I think it was the 5th or 6th novel where he gives Bond a new gun to use and tells him his
Yeah.
old gun is useless. And so in that sense, yeah, I had to completely invent his backstory from scratch. But I think it's a quite a poignant backstory that I've given him, which adds to the fact that he's quite a serious man. What I didn't want to do was lean into the slight caricature that he became on screen, where he gets a
Yeah.
5-minute slot of some silly inventions and some good ones, and then he does a sort of dry put down of Bond for breaking all his equipment. That bit stays. So he's still a very dry, and there's a lot of dry humor, observational humor in the books, because Q is a highly intelligent man, and he's been out of the world for a long time, stuck in his lab, and now he's having to confront the real world again, and he's quite good with his dry put downs.
But there's more depth to him now.
Oh, absolutely, because he's having to navigate a world that's changed around him after 3 decades.
Yeah.
And he's seen these changes at a macro level, right? What's going on in all the supervillains that the MI6 are fighting with Q Branch's help. But now he's got to come down to this small village of a few thousand people where lots of change is happening. You've got possible county lines impacting the village. You've got immigration issues. You've got all the kind of things that we're talking about in the world today. And Q has been out of that loop for 3 decades, and now he finds himself thrust right back into it.
You know, when you're writing Quantum of Menace, does it make you look at like your world and how you see the world in a different lens?
Yeah, because say something as simple as I think one of the things you were going to ask me is what kind of interesting things have I learned?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so quantum computing, right? So I wasn't completely unfamiliar with quantum computing, but once you start looking at it, this is the next order of magnitude in terms of a leap for computing power. And if we're scared of what artificial intelligence can do and how it's changing the world right now, we should be really scared of what quantum computing can do when it's paired with artificial intelligence. And the thrust of the book is that there may be bad actors who could use this development to commit, some really serious crime and security offenses. And as I began to study sort of quantum computing a little bit and the physicists who are working on it, I mean, it's bonkers the kind of things so with normal computers, it's based on the binary system of 0 and 1, how data is stored. But with quantum computing, data can be stored as both 0 and 1 at the same time, which blows your mind. It's bonkers.
It doesn't even make sense in my head.
It doesn't, but it means that it can do infinitely more computations than normal computers. I mean, look, physicists are crazy, right? There was a great experiment, not great, the opposite of great, a while ago, where a proper physicist, had decided to write a paper on how cats could be solid or liquid. And his experiment was that he put a cat in an open box, and he watched this cat, and how cats get really flexible, and it just sort of eased into the box, and he decided to conclude that yes, in certain situations, cats could be considered liquid. Yeah, no one took it seriously, obviously. Do not try this at home, people. Do not stick your cats in boxes.
But I'm just thinking back to school and doing science in school, and that, it was never that. It was never that.
He was given something called an Ig Nobel Prize for his efforts. It's a real thing.
Oh God, I'm going to look it up.
It is. It's stupid. It's an award for so the Nobel Prizes are for good science.
This is for bad science.
This is for stupid science.
I like that. So in addition to that, what you learned about quantum computing, what is the other most random fact you now know because of this book?
I know where 007 came from.
Oh, where did it come from?
Okay, so one theory is to do with World War II intelligence signals, but the more interesting theory is that Ian Fleming came across 007 when he was reading a biography of John Dee, who was an alchemist and a spy for Queen Elizabeth I back in the 1500s. And John Dee used to send, wherever he was gone in Europe to spy on people and royal courts and whatnot, he used to send secret communiques back to Queen Elizabeth, and he used to sign them 00, which was supposed to be his eyes, because he was acting as Queen Elizabeth's eyes, and then he would sign 7 at the end of it because 7 was a magical number for alchemists. So 007.
I like that. I think I like that.
I like that one.
I do like that one. Okay, so Vaz, was this book harder or easier to write than your last one, and why?
Oh, come on, we've talked about this. Books are easy to write, aren't they?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
well, yeah,
breeze. They're so
yeah. I mean,
easy.
have you ever seen a picture of Ian Fleming writing? He's got that
So chilled.
cigarette on a holder. He's got his gin and bitter in one hand. He's wandering around barefoot on his beach. Absolute doddle. Um, look, I had a great time writing it. I was given a complete license, so it wasn't as if there were 8 cooks in the room, in spite of the estate having to approve everything, Ian Fleming's estate. So for me, it was actually quite a wonderful experience getting into the head of Q and just bringing him to life in a way that people have never seen him before, as a real person with a real backstory and real relationships, most of them really difficult because he's left them behind many, many years earlier. And now he has to get back on the horse with all of these emotional things that he's been divorced from for so very long.
All right, we got another listener question. Another one from David. How different or difficult was it writing a brand extension book after creating your own brilliant series?
Do you know, I was reading something the other day about how authors inspire themselves and make sure that they can, have enough ideas going on. So Agatha Christie famously used to write, eat apples in the bath while she was thinking of plots. And, Dan Brown, one of our favorite writers, he apparently wore gravity boots and hung himself upside down. I don't know, maybe the blood rushes to his head and gives him great ideas. This is true. Victor Hugo, famous Victor Hugo, used to tell his servants to take all his clothes away so he could write in the nude and there would be no distractions. I confess, the only one of those I've ever done is maybe eat an apple in the bath. Look, God, what was the question? I've forgotten the question now.
You went off on such a tangent. It's the best. But the question was, how different or difficult was it writing a brand extension book after creating your own brilliant series?
Right. So yeah, because of all those apples I ate and hanging upside down, it was not that difficult at all. The books that I write myself, as you know, Malabar House novels, they're very personal to me. 1950s India. I lived in India for a decade. I love talking about the end of the Raj and what India did next, and India's first female police detective, etc., etc. This was a completely different animal, but because I loved Bond growing up, and I knew the canon really, really well, I found it quite inspiring to step into those shoes. And I still remember writing a scene between Q and Bond towards the back end of the novel. And I got quite emotional about it because I thought, you know what, this is amazing. You're a British Asian writer who's grown up in this country, who's loved Bond, and now you get to write him officially. And yeah, it was a very poignant scene as well. So it was doubly emotional.
We're talking about, growing up with Bond, because we all grew up with Bond. Especially if you're in the UK, you definitely grew up with Bond. Definitely around Christmas, there's always going to be a Bond movie, more than one Bond movie on. So Jane Casey wants to know, did you watch all of the Bond films to prepare for writing? And if so, which was your favourite?
Oh my word, yeah, I'd seen them all before, but I rewatched them all. And
how many are there?
Oh, there's loads. I can't remember now. 14 maybe. No, 20 or 26 maybe Bond films and maybe 14 Bond novels or 12 Bond novels. I can't quite remember. Yeah. Oh, some of those early ones are a bit ropey now, aren't they? But they were,
just a tad.
They were of their time, right? They were of their time, and we have to be mindful of that. I grew up watching Roger Moore. My dad and I used to watch him together, so he's my favorite. And I even hate to say this now, but Live and Let Die. I adored Live and Let Die. Although if you look at that film now, you probably couldn't get away with a lot of the stuff there. It's
So you have to look at it within the context of the time and give it its grace.
You have to, but even then, even within the context of its time, it's
pushing it.
But the reason I say that is because I was a teenage boy and Jane Seymour was in it, and clearly, what teenage boy is not going to be madly in love with Jane Seymour from Live and Let Die?
Okay, so another one following on from Jane's question from DB Telford, who asked on Instagram. He says, "I know it's not about Bond, but did you have a particular silver screen Bond in mind when writing Quantum of Menace?"
Oh, for Bond, a particular Bond. Well, the Bond in the books is very much darker than the Bond that we see in films. So as much as I love Roger Moore, he's not the Bond from the books. The Bond in the books is an assassin first and foremost and behaves like one. And so the Bond that I've got in my books is more like the Bond. He only makes cameo appearances, but when he does, he's a serious guy who's been on serious missions and done some very, very dark things. And his interactions with Q are, they're quite acerbic because Q loves his put downs, but at the same time, there's a lovely scene where Q acknowledges what Bond has done for his country and the many times he's put his life on the line and will be completely unacknowledged for it because MI6, the only public figure of MI6 can ever that MI6 can ever have is the chief of MI6, but the actual agent will never be fated. If they die behind enemy lines or are tortured, we will never know about it. And so for me, that's the Bond that I believe in because Q and Bond share the same vision of the world. They believe in a way of life that I think most of us in democratic countries believe in, but we don't understand what it takes to defend that way of life. And I guess we're learning it more and more now with recent wars and things happening around the world. We're beginning to understand when democracy comes under threat, it's people behind the scenes who are putting their intellect and, in Bond's case, their lives on the line to protect it. And we rarely acknowledge that. So that's the Bond that I've got.
Do you have a favorite Bond and do you have a favorite Q? And can I tell you who my favorite Bond is? And everyone always looks at me like, why? I've always liked Timothy Dalton.
I like Timothy Dalton because he's very close to the Bond in the books. And so is Daniel Craig. That's
what I had in mind when you were describing him, that dark, like assassin. I thought to me, in my mind, it could only be someone like Timothy Dalton having that darkness.
And also he, this is not my words, but he was completely up himself because he was a proper Shakespearean actor, right? And he came in with that gravitas of, I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to do method Bond. So look, I love Roger Moore, so that's going to stay my Bond. And I've told you, Live and Let Die. I love Live and Let Die, although, I feel very nervous even watching it nowadays.
What about your favorite Q? Do you have a favorite Q? Who comes to mind when you think of Q?
Well, I mean, everybody says Desmond Llewellyn, but I'll be honest. I quite like Ben Whishaw. I like what he's done with him. I love what Ben Wishaw's done with the role. He's not the Q I've written about because my Q's 50, but he's got a bit of cyber chops about him as well as the old style inventions.
And did you have anyone in mind yourself when you were creating your Q, your version of Q?
Well, you mean other than the fact that my first question to the estate was, can I audition for Bond? Oh, yes. Be Q. I'm going to be Bond if I can get away with it. And if they say no to that, okay, we'll go to Q. And if they say no to that, okay, I'll audition for Moneypenny.
You're just working your way down.
I'll work my way down to the M's dog or whatever. No, I mean, I don't have anyone in mind for Q. It's too far away. I don't know who would. Tom Cruise, obviously. I mean, he does everything, right? If he can do Jack Reacher, he can do Q.
You know what? I think it'll be a cool Q.
Would you remember Tom Cruise in a film called Collateral, where he dyed his hair grey for some reason, and he was a dark assassin? He was brilliant in that film.
He was good in that.
So
he was very good in that.
Grey hair on him, give him an extra foot of height, and there you go. He's Q.
Platforms. Give him platforms to wear. Right, before I go into your next question, only because you mentioned Timothy Dalton being a Shakespearean actor and being a little bit up himself on set, I know it just brings me back to the fact that, but you were also in Flash Gordon, which is so the complete opposite of anything that he's done in terms of Shakespeare.
Sorry, did you say that I was in Flash Gordon?
Not
because
you, Timothy Dalton, not you.
Oh, was he? I remember him being in Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon.
Oh, I had no idea.
Dalton's in Flash Gordon.
Well, that's why he was so bloody angry all the time, wasn't he? Because his agent made him take a role in Flash bloody Gordon, and he couldn't be Flash Gordon, who was quite a cool character.
Gordon. Yeah, so I had to throw that in there. I love Flash Gordon. Anyway, I digress. So, without giving away any spoilers, did the book end the way you originally planned, or did it surprise you too?
To be fair, I mean, the murderer is quite difficult for people to guess. So yeah, that was part. I'd planned the book quite thoroughly beforehand. So yeah, it did end the way that I expected it to end, and early readers have had a hard time guessing the ending.
Oh, that's
And
good.
we've had some quite famous endorsements, the likes of Mick Herron and Anne Cleeves and Lee Child, etc., etc. So, God, I should ask them all. Did you guess the killer?
Yeah. Ask is planning a natural part? Is that part of your process anyway, or did you feel you had to go
Yeah.
that extra step? For
No, I do.
Quantum
I
of Menace?
plan quite thoroughly because I like to know where I'm going with the book,
Mm.
and I know other authors do it completely differently. But because I've got lots of clues and red herrings and cryptic things and thematic things that I want to talk about, such as we were saying, the state of the world today, and this is a bit of a state of the world novel as well as much as anything else. It means that I do have the whole plan written out beforehand. It's not to say that things can't change, but in this instance, I thought this murderer makes sense, and it's quite hard to spot.
So do you plan like meticulously, like your red herrings and your twists, or do you give yourself room for them to just emerge as the story unfolds?
No. I mean, I plan quite. I mean, look, what crime writers are famous for their internet histories, right? Because we go down rabbit holes all the time.
Yes.
Right, 1 minute we'll be googling kittens to pass the time, and then it's sadomasochism. For some sort of, if a police came and saw kittens and sadomasochism, two Google searches together, they'd wonder what we were doing to our cats.
Yeah.
But inevitably, because of all that research, plot points will crop up that you never thought you were going to include in your book, and then suddenly you do. So I think, in spite of having a plan, I think you have to remain receptive and fluent to changes and other things that can crop up, which I always do.
All right. So, did you ever hit the wall when writing this book, and how did you get past it?
Yeah, God, I've hit the wall so many times, but that's just because I had my glasses off and I wasn't looking where I was going. Sorry, dad joke.
It's so bad. That's such a terrible dad joke, but a dad joke's normally the funny one.
Look, because I have a plan in place beforehand, I spent 2 or 3 months at that.
Yeah,
I didn't really have any writer's block because I knew what the next chapter would contain. So it was only ever, occasionally life gets on top of you and whatnot, and then you think, God, I got out for zero playing cricket again on Sunday. I can't bear to sit down and write now because I've got no motivation. You laugh and you giggle like my wife does, but honestly, it affects me mentally when I get like a weekend of doing really shit cricket, and then it really bothers me. Then on Mondays, I'm useless. I can't write anything. It's horrible.
I don't know what to say to you. There's probably nothing I can say to help you get past those moments when you're all out.
Yes. You don't even know the terminology. It's I'm out, not all out.
All out. I'm out. Everyone's out.
My God. And you're from the West Indies, or your heritage.
I know, and I watch cricket.
Useless.
Anyway, what are you working on next, Faz?
Well, I've just finished the first draft of the second Q novel, which is called The Man with the Golden. Yeah, it's called The Man with the Golden Compass. Dead man found with a gold circular object in his hand, which has runes on it. And, Q is called in as a civilian contractor to the police because he did such a good job in Quantum of Menace that they want him to work on some more cases. This is a slightly older case, 9 months old. A lot of fun writing that. Then I'm gearing up for the launch of the next Malabar House novel in January, which is called The Edge of Darkness. So lots going on.
Is it nice returning back to your series when you've been working on standalones?
It's lovely to slip back into characters that I've been writing for 5 books, characters I'm really familiar with, characters that I really like, because you don't always like your characters, right? I mean, some of them are easy to write and you love them, and others, you have to have them there, but if they were real people, you just want to punch them in the face.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I love everything about those books, and they've been really good to me. They're read around the world. People write to me about them all the time because they raise questions about history and the things we know or we should know and don't know, and they find out through these books. But of course, they're first and foremost, as you know, they have to be entertaining murder mysteries. So I love writing the Malabar House novels. And looking forward to the next one. Yeah, got to sit down and start writing it now.
It's the thing, because I was talking before, like I'm writing my standalone, and I'm already thinking I can't wait to go back to Henley and the
Yeah.
Serial Crimes Unit, because I know the
Yeah.
world so well. I know I
Yeah.
could just slip back into it. And you start talking about characters that you don't like. I remember there was a character in I think it was in the Binding Room called Serena. I hated writing her. Honestly, same way if I met her in real life, I would want to just knock her out. But she's a good character, but yeah, you can really have a strong dislike for characters.
Do you know my favorite character, the one I wish I'd written? Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, it's a
Absolutely
good
love
character.
him to bits. I'd love to meet him in real life. And you know what?
Would you?
I'd be quite safe. I'd be quite safe. He only kills and eats people who are impolite to him.
Oh, I'd be very polite.
Yeah, you'd have to be.
Yeah, I would be, because I like my brain to stay in my head.
Yes. And my liver. I mean, to be fair, we could lose bits of liver. I don't think
you can use a little bit. It grows back over 5 years, apparently. I think it's 5 years.
There you go. Did not know that. Did not know that.
Liver grows back. Okay, so Vaseem, what message or feeling do you hope readers take away from the book Quantum of Menace?
Well, I've talked about how I got quite emotional with it.
Yeah.
You know, it is a state of the nation book as much as it is a murder mystery, as much as it is an exploration of a man who we think we know based on, you know, if you've watched any Bond films, you think you know him, but now you get to see a real person. You get to see a serious scientist who has now lost his way in the world, you know, being kicked out of your job that you've been doing for 3 decades at the age of 50, no matter how qualified and competent you are. And because, you know, he's been booted out under bad graces, it's hard for him to get another job in that space. And he can't contemplate what he's going to do with his life now. And so this reinvestigation gives him a temporary mission. But what's going to happen after that mission is over? So for me, I think lots of lovely feelings. Obviously, the intellectual challenge of solving what is quite a complicated mystery with lots of cryptic clues, because Q is a brainy chap. But also that feeling that we've learned, or somebody has understood, the world that we're currently living in and all of the different dilemmas, that in spite of our divided politics, we can still have intelligent conversations about the topics that are really important to us, you know, being humane and understanding that people in different situations have different issues to us maybe, and therefore, you know, working along those lines.
Okay, so finally, to end our coffee break, which book, film, show or video game do you recommend?
Oh, I've just watched an 8-parter on Netflix called Black Rabbit with Jude Law, and
is it good?
It is good. I can't remember what the other dude's name is.
Oh, Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman, that's it. It is good, actually. It's really good. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it gets a bit ropey towards the end when also a billion plot points start. You can see that the writers got really carried away. But overall, I think it held my attention. It was quite immersive, and I sort of had it on the other screen while I was trying to do some admin on the other screen. So, yeah.
Cool. It's on my watch list. Are you I'm gonna let you go. But do you work in silence, or do you have stuff on in the background?
Oh, well, usually if it's writing, has to be deathly silent. It's got to be deathly silent.
Nothing.
You know, nothing. No, my wife will irritate the hell out of me by coming in and knocking and just phoning me up from downstairs to ask me random questions. But it's got to be deathly silent. So that's why I tend to wake up really early before she's awake and can give me DIY jobs and whatnot. So
what time? I will let you go. What time do you get up to start writing? What's the earliest?
I'm usually up about 6:30 to 7:30. Yeah.
Okay, that's not bad.
You get a few hours done by 10, and get 1,000 words in by 10, 11 o'clock. And then
I always say it's amazing how much work, like how many words you can actually get done when you give yourself like a tight block of time and say, I have an hour to write and I'm just going to focus on cut everything off, even though I'll have stuff on in the background. And you'll amaze yourself like, oh my God, I've actually got 800 or even 1,000 words done in this hour.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially if you're working off a plan. I mean, are you one of these people who I have friends who listen to rock and roll while they're writing, and I just don't understand what's going on there?
No, I do have music. I have stuff on in the background. I have it's either the music or the radio will be. I can't work in deathly.
Are you one of these posh sorts who've got jazz on?
No. If it comes up on the Spotify playlist, then fair enough. But I don't have my jazz playlist.
It's Justin Bieber, isn't it?
No, it's Prince.
Yeah.
I got Prince on there.
Oh, I love Prince.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, in the Prince versus Michael Jackson wars, I always sided with Prince, and I
Oh.
was eventually proved right, obviously.
He was the only concert I cried at when he played Purple Rain.
At least you got to see him in.
I did. I saw him twice. But no, I have music. I have music on. I know it's been said a million times. Inception soundtrack is a good one. For sure, I'm writing action. Yeah, if I'm writing action scenes, Hans Zimmer musical score is good to have on. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've got a friend. You know him, Amit.
Yeah.
Swears by Hans Zimmer. I mean, I just call him Hans Zimmer. I don't know. I just call him Hans Zimmer frame. I don't know. I just can't. I can't get into it.
Well, you know, everyone's different. You work in silence. Some people need a whole brass band behind them.
Oh, is there one behind me right now? No.
There's one behind you. I've sent it your way.
Thank you.
Well,
much appreciated.
Vaz, that just leads me to say, Vaseem Khan, thank you so much for joining me for the Conversation Coffee Break.
It has been absolutely lovely. Thank you.
You're